Boris Fyodorovich Godunov, /DNF, D/Russian, Ipatiev Monastery, c. 1551 to 23 April, OS 13 April, 1605, ruled the Tsardom of Russia as de facto regent from c. 1585 to 1598 and then as the first non-Rurikid Tsar from 1598 to 1605. The end of his reign saw Russia descend into the time of troubles. Boris Godunov was the most noted member of an ancient, now extinct, Russian family of Tatar origin, which came from the Horde to Kostroma in the early 14th century. He was descended from the Tatarian Prince Chet, who went from the Golden Horde to Russia and founded the Ipatiev Monastery in Kostroma. Boris was the son of Feodor Ivanovich Godunov Krivoy, the One-Eyed, died, c. 1568 to 1570, and his wife Stepanida Ivanovna. His older brother Vasily died young and without issue. Godunov's career began at the court of Ivan the Terrible. He is mentioned in 1570 for taking part in the Surpus campaign, being an archer of the guard. The following year, he became an oprichnik, a member of Ivan's personal guard and secret police. In 1571, Godunov strengthened his position at court by his marriage to Maria Grigorievna Skirtovabelskaya, the daughter of oprichnik's head Malyuta Skirtovbelsky. In 1580, the Tsar chose Irina Godunova, or Irina, later Alexandra, Fedorovna Godunova, 1557 to 26 October / the 23rd of November 1603, the sister of Godunov, to be the wife of his second son and eventual heir, the 14-year-old Feodor Ivanovich, 1557 to 1598. On this occasion, Godunov was promoted to the rank of boyar. 2. On the 15th of November 1581, he was present at the scene of the Tsar's murder of his own eldest son, the Crown Prince Ivan. Godunov tried to intervene, but received blows from the Tsar's scepter. The elder Ivan immediately repented and Godunov rushed to get help for the Tsarevich, who died 4 days later. 3 years later, on his deathbed, Ivan IV appointed a council consisting of Godunov, Fyodor Nikitich Romanov, Vasily Shuisky and others, to guide his son and successor of Russia Feodor I, who was feeble both in mind and body. He took refuge from the dangers of the palace in devotion to religion, and though his people called him a saint, they recognized that he lacked the iron to govern men. Upon his death, Ivan also left the 3-year-old Dmitry Ivanovich, 1581 to 1591, from his 7th and last marriage. Since the Orthodox Church recognized legitimate only his first 3 marriages, and any offspring thereof, Dmitry, and his mother's family, technically had no claim to the throne. Still, taking no chances, shortly after Ivan's death the council had both Dmitry and his mother Maria Negaya moved to ûɡ̑d, some 120 miles north of Moscow. It was there in 1591 that Dmitry died at the age of 10. An official commission headed by Vasily Shuisky was sent to determine the cause of death. The official verdict was that the boy had cut his throat during an epileptic seizure. Ivan's widow claimed that her son had been murdered by Godunov's agents. Godunov's guilt was never established, and shortly thereafter Dmitry's mother was forced to take the veil. Dmitry Ivanovich was laid to rest in promptly, though temporarily, forgotten regency. At the coronation of Feodor Ivanovich as Tsar Feodor I on the 31st of May 1584, Boris received honors and riches as a member of the Regency Council, in which he held the second place during the life of the Tsar's uncle Nikita Romanovich. When Nikita died in 1586, Boris had no serious rival for the regency. A conspiracy of other boyars and of Dionysius II, Metropolitan of Moscow, sought to break Boris's power by divorcing the Tsar from Godunov's childless sister. The attempt proved unsuccessful, and the conspirators were banished or sent to monasteries. After that, Godunov remained supreme in Russia and he corresponded with foreign princes as their equal. His policy was generally pacific and always prudent. In 1595, he recovered from Sweden some towns lost during the former reign. 5 years previously he had defeated a Tatar raid upon Moscow, for which he received the title of Konushi, an obsolete dignity even higher than that of boyar. He supported an anti-Turkish faction in the Crimea and gave the emperor subsidies in his war against the Sultan. Godunov encouraged English merchants to trade with Russia by exempting them from duties. He built towns and fortresses along the northeastern and southeastern borders of Russia to keep the Tatar and Finnic tribes in order. These included Samara, Saratov, Voronezh, and Tsaritsyn, as well as other lesser towns. He colonized Siberia with scores of new settlements, including Tobolsk. During his rule, the Russian Orthodox Church received its patriarchate, placing it on an equal footing with the ancient Eastern churches and freeing it from the influence of the Patriarch of Constantinople. This pleased the Tsar, as Fyodor took a great interest in church affairs. In Godunov's most important domestic reform, a 1597 decree forbade peasants to transfer from one landowner to another, which they were free to do around Uri's day, thus binding them to the soil. This ordinance aimed to secure revenue, but it led to the institution of serfdom in its most oppressive form. See also serfdom in Russia, Tsardom. On the death of the childless Fyodor on the 7th of January 1598, self-preservation as much as ambition led Boris to seize the throne. Had he not done so, the mildest treatment he could have hoped for would have been lifelong seclusion in a monastery. His election was proposed by Patriarch Job of Moscow, who believed that Boris was the one man capable of coping with the difficulties of the situation. Boris, however, would accept the throne only from the Zemsky Soba, or National Assembly, which met on 17 February and unanimously elected him on 21 February. On 1 September, he was solemnly crowned Tsar. During the first years of his reign, he was both popular and prosperous, and ruled well. He recognized the need for Russia to catch up with the intellectual progress of the West and did his best to bring about educational and social reforms. He was the first Tsar to import foreign teachers on a large scale, the first to send young Russians abroad to be educated, and the first to allow Lutheran churches to be built in Russia. After the Russo-Swedish War, 1590–1595, he felt the necessity of access to the Baltic Sea and attempted to obtain Livonia by diplomatic means. He cultivated friendly relations with the Scandinavians and hoped to take a bride from a foreign royal house, thereby increasing the dignity of his own dynasty. However, he declined the personal union proposed to him in 1600 by the diplomatic mission led by Lusapa from the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Boris died after a lengthy illness and a stroke on 23 April 1605. He left one son, Fyodor II, who succeeded him and ruled for only a few months, until he and Boris' widow were murdered by the enemies of the Godunovs in Moscow on 10–20 June 1605. Boris's first son, Ivan, was born in 1587 and died in 1588. His daughter, Ksenia, was born in 1582. She was engaged to Johann of Schleswig-Holstein, but he died shortly before their planned wedding in October 1602. Ksenia was given the name Olga upon being forced to take monastic vows at the Voskresenskij Monastery in Beluzero, and her name is inscribed as the nun Olga Borisovna at the crypt of the Godunovs at the Trinity Lavrov Street, Sergius, where she lived from 1606. When she sojourned there to attend the reburial of her father, until her death in 1622. Boris, his wife, and their children are buried together in a mausoleum near the entrance of the Assumption Cathedral at Trinity Street. Sergius Lavra. Boris' life was dramatized by the founder of Russian literature, Alexander Pushkin, in his play Boris Godunov, 1831. Which was inspired by Shakespeare's Henry IV. Modest Mussorgsky based his opera Boris Godunov on Pushkin's play. Sergei Prokofiev later wrote incidental music for Pushkin's drama. In 1997, the score of a 1710 Baroque opera based on the reign of Boris by German composer Johann Mattheson was rediscovered in Armenia and returned to Hamburg, Germany. This opera, never performed during the composer's lifetime, had its world premiere in 2005 at the Boston Early Music Festival and Exhibition. The character Boris Godunov in the cartoon The Rocky and Bullwinkle Show takes his name from a play on Godunov's